now. Gosh, I hate to be the only one talking. I feel like it's a monologue, you know. Yes, so where we would have ended off last week, I believe, was with people and props. This week we're going to continue on with the physical elements. So this should be your big heading. Your big heading should be physical elements. Because that's what we're dealing with right now, and we're going to try to get on as far as possible as we can in talking about weights. So yeah, as I said, we would have done people and roles. Why we right, yeah, we would have done people and roles. Now we're going on to paraphernalia and props. Anybody want to give? We discussed this briefly already, but just putting it into context. Anybody? Any ideas of paraphernalia and or props that would be involved in a wake celebration, please? Why is my screen sharing paused? I would like to unpause it if that's okay. 1 second now, I'm having a senior moment here. Let's try and this again. All right, so we're back in business. Okay, yes, somebody, Rachel was saying something, I believe. Oh, shucks. Yeah, Rachel, the floor is yours.
Miss, I said candles, but now I'm not sure if that would be considered a prop.
Why not?
Well, isn't it more like, to call it a prop, would that not be kind of disrespectful?
No, it wouldn't. Because remember,
Okay.
we are looking at all of these things as modes of performance, 1. And 2, we are also thinking about how we could incorporate them into performance. So in as much as we are looking at wakes right now in their organic, I guess you could say habitat, their organic existence as a cultural form or as a cultural event, we are also looking at it as a type of performance. So we just talked about the people and roles, and you'll see that the images that I use in the PowerPoint are mixed between images from actual wakes and 9-night celebrations, and also pictures from performances that involve wakes or 9-night celebrations. So I would not say that it would be disrespectful to call it a prop, because in the organic situation of a wake, it does fulfill the definition of a prop. It's an object that you interact with. It's symbolic of something, and it contributes to the overall kind of aesthetic of the event. So if I just open up the curtains on a performance and you see a group of people gathered and they have lit candles on the stage, that's all you see on the stage, then you're going to assume, okay, maybe somebody has died. It might be a candlelit vigil, it might be a wake, it might be a funeral, it might be a prayer, it might be something like a horror or something like that. So the symbols are all, I wouldn't say incorrect to say that at all. And also, if we're looking at it in a non-performance perspective, you're just looking at it as an event, then that's why they have the word paraphernalia there. Paraphernalia just really referring to, my mother uses this word real often. Just objects that, kind of miscellaneous assorted objects that may or may not be directly related to something, but just, objects in general. So I definitely say a candle is a very important prop or item of paraphernalia, the physical element of a wake. Please, anyone, before I have to call somebody off the top of my head. Remember, we spoke about this already, so we already identified some of the potential, objects that would be involved in a wake, and wakes differ a lot. So I'm going to be many different object options. Anybody, please? One more person, 2 more people. Yeah, pick on somebody. Azaria, pleasure of you to join us today. It's nice to see you. It would be nice to hear from you as well. And I am also going to pick on JL. JL, please give us a prop or an item that might be used in a wake.
Miss Drums.
Drums, thank you, JL. Drums and I guess musical instruments in general. Azaria is still on mute. All right, we're going to, let's move on. So I hope you all are taking notes. Continuing on with physical elements. As we discussed already, food is very important, and food is very important, particularly, I think, to Caribbean celebrations. So like for instance, when I lived in England, the difference between a lime or a social gathering with Caribbean people and one with British people was so very different because they don't feel obligated to feed you. Now, me with my Caribbean upbringing, my idea about it is if you invite me to your home, I'm not supposed to eat before I come, you know, like you invite me there, you're going to feed me, or at least let me know if I have to bring something to eat. But this thing where everybody just sit down drinking water and juice and Sprite and all kind of thing, and nobody eating, like that's just foreign to me. So we did discuss how coffee and tea would be common because the caffeine in it, initially wakes with whole night celebrations. So you would drink things that would keep you alert, keep you awake, and also things like cheese-based sandwiches and cricks. Have you all ever seen the cricks pan? The traditional kind of metal. Talk to me, I haven't talked to myself, right? There's like
No,
a,
miss.
well, I've never seen, yeah, a cricks pan.
Yes, miss. I have one.
It's yeah, you should take a picture and send us in the chat.
Okay, miss.
It's like a metal container, and they used to use them in like rhythm sections as well. So it's a metal container and it has the cricks sticker on it. So that's when you're buying plenty cricks, obviously, for like a week or something like that. I'll see if I can find a picture, and Tamia might send us a picture of his as well. So all of these things you'll observe, because we were talking about the fact that in many cases there'll be a lot of people to feed, and in many cases it would be people of lower socioeconomic background. They're going to choose things that are cheap. Tea, you can't get cheaper than tea. Even though cheese-based sandwiches are expensive, you could stretch it because you take one block of cheese and you mix it up with mayonnaise and you have plenty of cheese-based. Cricks, things that are easy to share and also affordable. So I hope you all are taking notes of all of this. You could just put that in pencil next to it, considering the socioeconomic background of the people holding the wake and so on and so forth. So now, okay, let's talk for a minute about the picture. Am I recording? Yes. The picture that I have here is from a 9-night celebration in Jamaica. So you would notice, which we'll talk about in a little while. Honestly, I haven't been able to find that much information on the costume that they are wearing. But it seems to be a tradition of some sorts in the 9 nights, where they wear this costume that has the colors similar to the Jamaican flag. It would be great if you all could do some research and find out more about it, because I feel like I spoon feed you all quite a lot. But that's one thing that I did notice. I just can't give much more information about it. I just know that traditional 9 nights in Jamaica have this costume. That is something that you should take note of as well. Moving on with paraphernalia and props. Right, in some situations you'll have an altar. And of course, as with everything with wakes, it's going to vary depending on the religious or spiritual background of the people holding the wake. So for instance, in the Kumina, I'm going to write that in the chat. Kumina type of wakes or 9 nights. Now, Kumina is an African influenced syncretic religion, similar to Baptist, similar to shouter Baptists, we might call them. So the Kumina wakes, they will have an altar with very specific objects. A Catholic altar, it may not or may not have a Catholic altar in a wake, but they will also have somewhat specific things on it. They might have a picture of the Virgin Mary, a picture of Jesus, a picture of a patron saint or something. But what I find interesting with the Kumina altar is that they would have, actually I'm not sure if it's Kumina or if it's just a general 9-night tradition in Jamaica. They'll have a bowl of food for the dead person. And nobody else is allowed to touch the bowl of food, because remember where's my phone? I don't even know what time it is. The spiritual principle behind it is that they carry it out for 9 nights. I hope you all are taking notes, because the spirit of the person is supposed to be roaming the earth, roaming their spaces for those 9 nights after they die. So the thing is that they leave this bowl of food for the person's spirit, I guess to give them energy for the journey or something like that. And nobody else is allowed to touch it, and then they eventually throw it out, I think after midnight on the 9th night or something like that. And then you see rum is coming up as a significant, property spirits, the alcoholic spirits, and the flowers, typical symbol of death, and so on and so forth. So there are different types of altars, but it's not rare to find an altar in a wake. As Rachel rightly said, candles, lit candles. We could speculate about what the light symbolizes. In other cases, I think, no, not in this particular picture, but we all know what a flambeau is. I'm assuming if anybody doesn't know what a flambeau is, then don't feel ashamed. Drop a message in the chat or come out and say, Miss, I know what that is,
Miss, I don't know what that is.
So a flambeau, I think I have a picture of one later down in the slideshow. It's when you have a glass bottle and you have a piece of tissue in it and you light the piece of tissue. So it's like a light. You'll see Jab Molasses and Blue Devils have it as well. So it's the bottle with the flame inside of it, a glass bottle with a flame inside of it. Which was typical at, I guess, like traditional weeks, as opposed to nowadays. You have candles, you have those not electric candles, but the battery operated ones as well, which is a bit less traditional. As we could assume, you might have pictures of the deceased person. Of course, now, with the advent of technology and stuff, you could have plenty of pictures, you could have videos, you could have slideshow, you could put it up on the TV and have everybody watching a slideshow in the same way that you might have it in a funeral. But back in the days when all they had was probably 1 or 2 pictures of anybody in their entire lifetime. You have pictures to reminisce about the person's life. I hope you all are taking notes. Write down all of this and also write down anything else that comes to mind and shoot some ideas as well. Share your knowledge with us. That's why we are all here, to add to the knowledge base. White rum, for some reason, is more commonly, I guess, linked to wakes for some reason or the other. So I don't know if you all have ever seen this kind of tradition where when somebody opens a bottle of white rum, so you're talking about white oak or punching, they will pour out some onto the ground, and they'll say that's for the spirits or for the people who not there to share the drink with them. So we could also speculate about why white rum is used instead of dark rum, because I don't think generally that white rum is any more affordable than dark rum. So why is it that they choose to use, the I guess, purer spirit as a symbol for wakes. All things to think about. Write that down. And then, as we discussed as well, playing games. So typically it would be cards or dominoes. Dominoes, that game has a very strong cultural link in Jamaica as well, for some reason or the other, in Jamaica and the Jamaican diaspora. But as we spoke about before, a lot of these things were to keep the crowd alert throughout the night, so that, you know, it wouldn't fall asleep, because then it wouldn't be awake, it would be asleep. Y'all get that one? Y'all catch it? Y'all catch that joke? I'm gonna say,
Miss,
yeah.
I'm not too sure if we caught the joke.
Yeah, catch it. I said, if the people fell asleep, it wouldn't be awake anymore. It would.
Oh,
I know, like, catch my joke. I know you all are laughing behind the screens right now. You just don't want to make me feel good about myself. Moving along. Musical instruments. As somebody at JL, very right. I think it was JL, rightly said, the drums. So in more traditional wakes, or wakes by people who have African influence. Actually, not even necessarily, because you find drums very often in the Catholic Church and in the Catholic gatherings. Oh yes, here's my note. This was the thing about the altar. On the ninth night, a table is set up under a tent with food for the loved one. Though no one is allowed to eat from it before midnight, because it is believed that this is the time that the spirit passes through. So that's the nine night principle behind it, is that for the 8 nights the spirit will be, I guess, ramaging and going back to the, you know, where they will raise and stuff like that. And then on the 9th night, before midnight, they pass through the house and go on to their final resting place. So I guess when they pass through the house, they'll eat the food that was on the altar, which would most likely be rice and something, probably rice and meat or something. Right, musical instruments, drums or guitars or shak. If you look closely in the picture, this lady has a maracas or a shak in her hand. These men are also, oh, that's where she got the drum answer from. I didn't even notice that. They are playing drums. There's a whole little rhythm section going on there. Right, so let me know if I'm going too fast, or if you all have anything to contribute, or if it's not clear. Movement and dance.
Miss, wait. So basically, during the first 8 nights, the spirit will be restless, but then on the 9th night, the spirit is believed to carry on.
Right, yeah. So
Okay.
the 9th night is when the spirit moves to their final resting place. That's their belief, is that, yeah, exactly as you said, 8 nights wandering, and then the 9th night is when they finally settle down. I don't know the symbolism of the number, but that's the belief. Anybody? Oh, is Alyssa Worrell here? Sorry to call you by a government name. Yes, she is here, Alyssa
Yes.
Worrell. Oh, do you know anything about movement or dance in wakes on 9 nights? Or traditionally associated with that?
Nothing could come to mind now, miss.
Okay. I swear somebody else is a dancer inside here, you know. I can't remember right now. And I know Rissa will start to act up if I ask her. But Azaria, you had something to say? You'll realize I gave you a big hint with the picture. There's a picture.
Limbo.
Limbo. Bet you all didn't know that limbo is traditionally a wake dance. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and spoon feed you. So the Limbo Dance, if you did not know that Limbo Dance originated in Trinidad, well, now you know. Well, Trinidad and Tobago, sorry. Wow. I didn't finish writing the sentence, or I lost the rest of the sentence. Something happened there, I'll fix it afterwards before I send it to you. But Limbo Dance, even though now it is in traditional context, so this picture is in Trinidad. I stole it from somebody's Facebook page, which is where I get most of my pictures from. But this was an actual wake in Trinidad not too long ago, within the last few years. And these are people who obviously, know the tradition behind the Limbo Dance. But what I meant to say in the rest of that sentence is that it supposedly symbolizes the movement from one realm to the other. So from one, I can't find the word to say, but basically from the earthly world to the spirit world. That is one theory about what the movement underneath the bar means or symbolizes. So now you'll see limbo done more in a kind of performative setting, or you see it even done at parties, not so much at home. I always wonder how come we don't emphasize limbo dance as much as we do things like pan and parang and carnival and things that were originated in Trinidad. I always wonder why limbo dance is not much of a big focus for us. I don't know, but you all may have seen now the limbo performers. There's a woman named, I just forget the woman name. I completely forgot her name, but wow, I completely forgot the woman's name. But there's a woman in Trinidad who originated that practice of doing the limbo with a stick that's on fire. So like they will have the limbo stick lit aflame, and it's scary and risky and all that. But all of that is not necessarily the original traditional use of limbo. So limbo, of course, being an African inspired or African influenced, dance movement that was the origin is in weeks in Trinidad and Tobago, and then it developed more into kind of just more of a performance form, even though say again.
So Trinidad or the Caribbean originated limbo.
Trinidad and Tobago.
Honestly, I usually see it being credited as something from Hawaii.
No.
Like if you look at media, they usually credit Hawaii for limbo.
That's all. At all. Because even if you look at the name of it, is an African influenced name. Hawaii don't know Africa like that. But yeah, and I think maybe it has to do with the fact that Hawaii is a very tourist oriented Azaria, see her forehead big, she lit the stick with it. Hawaii is a very tourist oriented place. So I guess because it's entertaining, I suppose, how low can you go kind of thing. But that is ours. That is Trinidad and Tobago thing. Same way we invent pan. Well, pan as we know it now, we invent limbo, so let nobody tell you any different. Also, I have a video to show you all just now. The Bongo Dance is another. You all familiar with the bongo?
Yes, miss.
Yes, we know.
Yes, miss.
Yeah. That is another in inverted commas weak dance. Which I guess the movements all symbolize things, and we could speculate and say what the movements symbolize. If you all aren't familiar with it, I will show you a video in a second of some bongo choreography. But all of these movements, of course, in order to preserve them, have been when I say preserve them, as in they may not be, like, because if you go to a wake nowadays, you're more than likely not going to find anybody doing bongo. So these movements, in order to preserve them, have been turned more into a performance form. So you'll find that you go to a Sandfest or Carry Fest on a, a regional level.
Best Village.
Best Village, exactly. Best Village specifically. They'll be doing it more as a performance form than in the traditional setting of a week. But the Bongo Dance, which I'll show you in a second, is also originally a wake dance. So, all of this, we're putting it into perspective. We're thinking if we are going to do a play that is based on a 9 nights or a week, you must have a dance in it. You're going to have either limbo or bongo. If you're making it traditional, we're not necessarily going to have what dance is do nowadays, boy, a piano bounce and things like that. Or maybe a might, as showing the difference between contemporary and traditional. And if we go across to Jamaica now, take notes of this. There are many dances that they do, and I don't know all of them, but the, I guess, most notable ones are called Dinky Minnie, and I would like to believe it's pronounced Gere, which I'll also show you a video of. So, take note of that under movements and dance, and I hope that as we are covering this, you all are able to see and envision this, not just in, as I've been saying, not just in the context of a wake itself, but also on stage. If I were to say, all right, or on Zoom, given the circumstances. So I hope that you all are able to see how this could fit into actual performance modes as well. So the call is going to end, the meeting is going to end in about 4 minutes. You all know what to do. Just use the same link and come right back. But before it does end, I'm going to find my video and show you all some bongo choreography first. Ooh. You all will have to tell me whether you can see it properly or not, because I don't think I optimized my screen sharing for video, so it might look a little bit choppy. Hopefully not. Music for computer sound only. All right. Oh yes. Okay. Here we go. So this is some bongo choreography that was done by UE African Society. I just took like a little clip of it. Right. Stop sharing. Right. So yeah, the call is going to end in less than a minute. So there are signature moves for the bongo. Did you all see, that one where they go down and they come back up real fast? That one. That is doing primary school. Or they didn't go to primary school. In primary school, you always do
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
Yes. When you back in the days when you had good knees. Now if you get me to do that, I go down, I never come back up. And I am really that good.
Basically, you mean that like bouncing movements?
So that
Like the Russian dance?
Yes, not Russian. I mean, yes, the Russians do have a movement like that, but this is, if you go back to the origins in West Africa, you will still find people doing movements like that. Of course, they'll have a different name for it and so on. But that particular movement is what people know as the bongo. But the other associated movements are also bongo movements. You have that one where they do with the hands and the feet in and out, and this one here that looks almost like an Indian dance, and the high jumps as well. So in addition to doing, you know, the bounce and come up, there's also the high jumps that you would have seen him do at the beginning. What is another bongo movement? So all of these are wake movements. I think just the bouncing one is the bongo itself, and the rest of them are just other wake dances. I could be wrong. But yes, so that one was a performance using bongo choreography. Y'all are really having a moment in this chat. So you say she doesn't have the facilities for that, big man. I don't want to go on because the call is going to end now, but y'all know. So you all will let me know if you can hear and see this video properly as well. This one is in Jamaica, traditional 9-night celebration, which what I learned in the comments for this video. I'll send you the links because these are videos from YouTube. I'll send you the links afterwards so you could watch them in their entirety. But what I learned from the comments is that this particular video is actually from the wake celebration for a playwright called Trevor Rohn, a Jamaican playwright. He would have written Smile Orange, and I think I would like to believe Old Story Time. I think it's Old Story Time, which is a play that was on the English syllabus once upon a time. Yes, so this is from an actual 9-night celebration, but I guess the reason why it was so grand was because it was for this very loved Jamaican playwright, Trevor Rohn. When he passed away, they said, yeah, you know, we had to do it big. We have to have a traditional 9-night for him. I don't know what time it is. Right. So let me know if you all can see and hear this one properly, okay? So now I am quite surprised that I did not have any comments about this one. Oh, they fall asleep. Oh, where is my phone? Okay. So the interesting thing about this one is that it's very suggestive. Should I play it again? I feel like y'all didn't already. Y'all didn't get a chance to soak that in. I'm gonna play it again, and I want you to just notice the there's actually man moving like an ant. I want you to notice that there's a chanter, a person doing, you know, the chants or the commands, and then you have to notice the instruments in the back. And this one kind of here is calling me whatever you say. Right? That is on YouTube as well. I'll send you all. It's an entire video. But now the interesting thing, so that is called the Dinky Mini. Let me share back my slides on them. So if you listen to what he's saying, it's things like rev out the engine and something with the gearbox and mash up the car and things like that. I don't know particularly what it's about, but what I find interesting is that the dance itself is kind of suggestive, you know, it's a little bit suggestive. And so if you really interpret the chants, it could be, you know, interpreted as something suggestive as well. So, you know, it's just a very complex thought for you all, but you know, thinking about because a lot of people look at, you know, the Jamaican dance hall culture now and they say, oh, the young people this and the that and it's too rude and whatever. But it all started from somewhere, you know, I've done research and things like that. A lot of the things that we look at now and we say, oh, people so this and that and it's only whining and whatever, but it's just indigenous, you know, ways of expressing the self and expressing the sexuality that has always been a part of our culture, has always been a part of African influenced culture. But, you know, normal thing, colonials have to demonize it and make it look bad so that we feel insecure about our cultural ways of expressing ourselves. But all of that is, you know, separate debate from this. But that was the Dinky Mini, and the first video you saw was the Bongo. So Dinky Mini being a 9-night dance and Bongo being a week dance. Any questions or comments or queries or concerns up to this point before we move on? Are we all good so far? All right, be quiet. Oh, another thing that I would have liked you to note is, anyway, we'll go on to that now. Now remember, I was telling you about the costume. You all would have observed it in that video as well. I really hope you'll watch the whole thing afterwards. I'm going to send the link and I'm probably going to attach it to the end of this one as well. But that same costume, you would have seen the traditional green and yellow and black costume that they have in 9 nights. It would be really, I would really, you know, appreciate if somebody would do a little bit more research into that. Somebody, as in one of you all lovely ladies in this class. So kind of linking to movement and dance. Now you all would notice that if you look in the syllabus, a lot of these are separate points, but I link them because how could you separate music from sound? How could you separate movement from dance, you know? Right, moving on with music and sound. We spoke about all of this already. Live singing, drumming, and musical accompaniment. Yeah, I ain't got much more to say on that. Hymns and chants, of course, it would depend on the religious background. So hymns would be in a more Orthodox Christian or Protestant background. And then in the African influence tradition, you have the belief that these songs are supposed to help the spirits along the journey to their final resting place. Remember, the general thought in the more traditional circles is that all of these practices are in order to make sure that the person transitions well into their final resting place. So so all of the chanting and the drumming is supposed to appease the spirit. And their justification, I guess you could say, behind it is also that if they don't celebrate properly, as in if they don't have a proper way, if they don't do it with, you know, all the symbols and all the rituals, and they don't do it with all the songs and all the right drumming, the person will not be able to rest at peace. And this is, of course, you know, superstitions having to deal with spirits that roam and unhappy spirits that, you know, haunt and things like that. So they're general, you know, I don't know what word to use, but for these practices is that they had to do it properly for the sake of the person, right? So that the spirit won't linger around, that it won't haunt anybody, the spirit won't be unhappy but they will literally rest in peace, or zest in peace, as the case may be. Wow, I'm on a roll this morning. Right, one thing I would have wanted, you'll catch that joke, right? I know they catch it. One thing I would have wanted you all to note about the 9-night video was the call and response, which is a very big part of participatory African influence and African culture. So you have the man, singing rev up the engine and fitting the gearbox and whatever he's singing, and then you have the other people responding. So that call and response is a very important, a very integral part of the African-based tradition, not just in wakes, but in storytelling, which is also a part of wakes, in many, 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 many different ways. So you all could write that down in pencil next to it. Call and response. Everybody good up to the time, up to the hour. We have about 15 minutes. We're going to go on to symbolic elements. Anybody have anything that they want to contribute? Anything that they would have observed in terms of the physical elements of wakes that they want to share with us, that we want to discuss?
I have things on like Hindu wakes and stuff, but it could wait after.
Okay. Yeah. We're probably going to, this topic is probably going to take us into next class as well. So we could have more of a discussion, but I find that very interesting.
This is a lot, but yeah.
All of that, all the merrier. We good? We ready to move on to symbolic? I really hope you all are taking good notes of this, because at the end, I'm going to show you how these things come up in exam papers to bite you after you think you understand it well. All right, so we're moving on to the symbolic elements. So we would have just finished the physical elements, and I would make sure I record it. Yes. I'd like you also to go check back in the syllabus, ever so often, and see where we at, see what we're finishing up, so on and so forth. So now we're looking at symbolic, meaning that you have one thing that would represent another. So what does this ritual, what does this gathering mean to the people who participate? What symbols are involved, what do they symbolize, and why are they there? Just looking at them and analyzing and delving a little bit deeper into them. So, this is a quote. So we're looking first at the spiritual. This is as the syllabus lays it out, right? The first symbolic thing would be spiritual. And I think it would be, so you all had that up, right? I think it would be quite clear to see that there's a very, very, very important spiritual element behind the wakes, right? This quote, this man says, the 9-night wake ritual is necessary because it all stems from the firm belief in survival after death, or rather, that there is no death, right? Because this is, part of how we cope by thinking, the person is not gone forever. We will see them at some point in time, in the future, we will be reunited, or even if we don't see them, they live on in some way. So they didn't live an entire life in vain. It didn't just come to an end and that's it. It's all based off of this spiritual connection, this connection that there is a spirit that lives on, that life is not just this physical form that we have. It's not just this body that you could touch and feel, but it's this spiritual aspect of it that can be detached from this. So even if when you move beyond this physical realm where you can touch things and feel things, and the only way we can perceive things is how they appear to us physically, is this thought that that there's something that lives beyond that, right? So that's kind of the underlying principle behind the weeks or the 9 nights, that you are helping the spirit achieve something, or you are, or that, you know, you feel better about something and knowing that you'll see the person again, or the person is at peace, their spirit is at peace.
Miss, that sounds kind of horrifying.
You find so?
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Imagine dying and thinking you don't have to like do anything anymore. And then the next thing you know, you wake up somewhere else and you just had to repeat the same stuff to somewhere else.
Well, I mean, remember, you will, it depends on how you look at it. If you're looking at it from a perspective of reincarnation, you'll be born in another form. So you might come back as a butterfly. And I think, I don't want to say JL got put out for the chat. Call. I don't want to be wrong. I think Hindu people, I am not sure. I think there's
Yeah, they do.
some religion. I think it's Hindu. They believe that how you live in this life will determine how you come back in the next life. So if you're a nice person, you might come back as a something nice, like a butterfly or a rich person or something like that. If you live your life, you know, badly, you come back as a mosquito or a cockroach or like a tree that somebody's cut down or something like that. But yeah, so all of this, you know, having to do with these legends about the meeting between this world, as in this physical world that we live in, and the next world, whatever the next world is in that belief. So whether the next world is that it's heaven, or it's a spirit world, or a realm that exists on earth, but you know, the spirits exist in it, or whether it's a next life as another earth form, or whatever the case may be. All of this, you know, this is a spiritual element of the week or the 9 nights tradition. Tamia's Wi-Fi has been in trouble. Thank you for telling me, Alyssa. All you had to, you see, all who have Flow Wi-Fi, all you had to give up on Flow, you know. Flow and money for all you. Fluent and treating all the rights. Rachel, if you look in the background of this picture, you'll see they're holding flambeaus. I think I included that picture somewhere.
Miss, that looks like, don't they do that where? At the Olympics?
No, the Olympics would be at top. Watch now, Rachel have her white people example for everything, you know. For everything. At the Olympics, they'll have a torch, but the flambeau is really I guess it would originate in lower class traditions where you're just using what you have at your disposal. So I suppose they'll have beer bottles around, and you'll have kerosene, you know, all cheap things, and you make a flame out of it, say that. But yeah, that's a flambeau. And in the traditional ones, they might have had, instead of holding them, they might have had them like lining the outside of the house, so that when people pass in, they know that what was going on there, that kind of thing. You know, all these things about light guiding the spirit onto their final resting place and all of that. So this is a quote. If you look at these readings, at the dates, this one is from 1957. I think I made a mistake. I did make a mistake. Yeah, no, I think I made a mistake. These quotes are not from the same reading. I'll fix that. I'll figure out where this one is from. But they are all old readings from people who would have observed 9 nights or week celebrations a very, very, very long time ago. So these are traditional weeks that they're talking about. So this one says, the most important part of the ceremony occurs. Hello, all stop fighting in the chat. Pay attention. The most important part of the ceremony occurs in the room where the person died. Of course, this is their observation, right? So they just recorded what they observed in this particular 9-night ceremony. A triple-tiered altar is improvised by placing boxes on a table. An equal number of 9, 12, or 24 black and white candles is placed on each level, but no tier has black only or only white candles. 1 glass of water is placed on each tier, and a vase or vase of flowers is put in the center of the top tier. Ignore that. If a photograph of the dead person is available, it is placed against the flower vase. So this is very traditional. And of course, when you're thinking about rituals, you're thinking about things that are repeated in the same way or in a similar way every time they are done to achieve a certain goal. You could write that down as well. When we're talking about rituals, yes, there is a spiritual aspect of it, but there's this concept of doing things the same way according to whatever established rules or beliefs to achieve a certain end goal. So in this particular one, you'll see aspects of the ritual like you must have 9, 12, or 24 black and white candles. You can't have pink candles. You can't have, so you think about it as the Advent wreath as well. In the Catholic tradition, it must have certain color candles that would symbolize certain things in the rituals. You know, a glass of water on each tier. So the ritual is really about having a systematic approach to something, a step-by-step, you know, taking you through this repetition of this particular thing. That's about it on that part. But this was a very particular observation. Maybe the readings were all from the same place. And then going on with ritualistic. This is from the same observation. The candles are allowed to burn down, and after daybreak, the water in the glasses is thrown into the streets to indicate that the spirit is free. If it were thrown into the yard, the spirit would remain there. The mattress is turned over, or the bed is put outside. The house is swept, and the belongings of the dead man or woman are given to relatives on the 10th morning. This is in the 9th night, right? These acts signalize the departure of the dead person from his former home. If all death customs are observed, if the rites have been properly arranged, and if satisfactory memorial services are held later, the living need not fear the return of the person's spirit. So that is, this is what I was telling you all about. These, thinking about ritual as a structured way of doing something. You must do it like this, because if you don't do it like this, you're not going to have a proper wake, and the person going to roam or haunt you, or the person won't rest properly. And of course, you know, if you love the person, you're going to want them to rest properly. And if you love yourself, you're not going to want them to haunt you. So yeah, so you see there's a, and it's probably not as strict now anymore for the people who do practice the rituals, you know, loss of culture and heritage and all of that. But just looking at these very specific ways of carrying out these rituals, you know, you have to allow the candle to burn down. You have to throw the water outside, but you can't throw it in the yard. Otherwise, the spirit will throw in the yard, will stay in the yard. You have to throw it out. You must turn over the mattress so that the spirit won't get comfortable and come and sleep. You have to sweep the house to make sure it's clean of all, whatever. Give away all the belongings so the spirit don't come back and want to wear the clothes. You know, things like that. I'm not trying to trivialize it, but all of these aspects of the ritual. I know it's time. I just want to finish off this topic real quick. Still going on with ritualistic. So these conventions would be things that either celebrate, mourn, or seek to make peace. And some of the ones that we would be talking about, and these are common in Trinidad as well, would be turning over the mattress. You cover mirrors. I know some people still do this. From the time that somebody dies, especially if they die in the house, they will cover all the mirrors in the house so that I guess you won't see the person in the mirror. Rearranging the furniture to confuse the spirits. So they come, like they won't get comfortable in the space now. They'll come and be like, this is not my house, or this is what I know my house will look like. So they won't have any reason to stick around on earth. Burning their clothes or giving it away, so that they don't feel they have anything to hold on to in the physical world. This is making the physical world sound like a real bad place. Like, oh gosh, after you're dead, just give them every reason to not want to stay in. And then things like leaving food for the person, but then throwing it out so that they won't come there for food all the time. So all of these different rituals. And again, I'm always going to link it back to if you thinking about if you were to do even a screenplay or do a play about a wake or a situation where somebody has died and you have to put the set. You might have set where all the mirrors are, you have mirrors in the home if it's a box set, but all the mirrors are covered. So, all these symbols and things of rituals. Or that could be a plot point if you have a play that's based, around a wake, and you have the woman, a woman insisting on sweeping out the house or rearranging the furniture or giving away clothes and things like that. And later on, we'll talk about it. Actually, we don't have that much more to do, but we'll get to that next class. But yeah, so a lot of the rituals are for people to come to terms with the death, with, the process of grieving. They come to terms with it by feeling as though they handled it in a way that was pleasing to the universe or pleasing to the spirit world or whatever. So they carry out all these rituals to kind of, reassure themselves, well, this person died and I did my best. I gave them the best way possible. I did all the rituals, so they can't haunt me. And the spirit wouldn't roam and the person will be at peace and that kind of thing. So all of these ways of, coming to terms with things and so on and so forth. That's where we'll stop for today because it is now after 11. Any questions or contributions or confusions or queries or concerns? I hope you all are done taking that down.
Excuse me, miss.
Yes?
Miss, I'm not sure if this common, but like when somebody die, I think people my family did open the windows to let the soul go.
Okay, I never heard of that one, but it sounds kind of similar to the you'll write that down as well. It sounds kind of similar to the window covering one. I've never heard that one. You'll write it down, next to the rituals.
And also Hindus, they smoke out their house.
So like they would use like incense.
Yeah, and pass it around the house, and Muslims will mop the floor so that no footsteps will be remain of the dead person that lived there.
Okay, no footsteps.
Yeah, like footprint, like basically everywhere like the person's room and the living room, like everywhere the person would normally be, they will mop the house to ensure that basically the spirit wouldn't come back.
Okay, so
like erasing. Yeah.
Thank you, Alyssa. Alyssa's. You're seeing the kind of similarities between the different religions, right? And the different beliefs. That's very interesting because, if you think about it in principle, it's almost like, why wouldn't you want the person around? But I guess it's this concept that when it's your time to go is, go somewhere else because that place is better for spirits to be than here. This earthly realm is not our destiny. This is not where we're meant to stay. This is not where we're meant to be. So you would want to do your best to get that person's spirit onto, where they will literally rest properly. I find that so interesting. You'll take note of that, the differences and similarities between the beliefs in the different religions.